Hands up! Hands up! I can't see it.
I got him. Hands up, hands up, hands. That's all right. Hands high. Step here, face away from him, face away.
Get on the ground! All the way down. All the way down. On the ground!
Watch that right.
There might be someone in the back seat. I can't tell. Man, was there anybody else in the back seat?
All right, we'll move it up. You guys ready?
Guys, you gotta come.
Who's up?
Get on your stomach. Get on your stomach. Stomach. Arms out. Arms out. Arms out. Give us just 1 minute.
Surveillance video showing the moment they say Donaldson pulls up to the house, goes in, then comes out in less than 3 minutes after allegedly shooting her mother multiple times. The victim's mother-in-law, who was inside the home with Donaldson's 3-year-old daughter, heard the gunshots, then called her son, who then called police.
I know your next question will surround me regarding mental health and how do you hold individuals accountable. So in my 28 years of policing, I've seen severe mental illness where that person doesn't understand what they're doing. When I would tell you, this isn't it. And
Picture this. A mother tucks her 3-year-old granddaughter into bed on a quiet Sunday night. The house is peaceful, safe. Then 3 gunshots shatter everything. But here's what nobody saw coming. The person holding that gun wasn't a stranger breaking in. It was her own daughter. The grandmother, she was in the next room when it happened. Before we get into this, I want to take a moment to thank every single one of you watching. We read every comment you leave on True Crime Unravelled, and your support means everything. Keep those thoughts and theories coming. We're building this community together. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join us for a daily dose of true crime stories told from angles you won't find anywhere else. Now, let's get into this case that left investigators asking one haunting question. When does a custody battle become a death sentence? October 5th, 2025. Southfield, Michigan. Mae Simmons-Jones, 45 years old, had built the kind of life people admire from the outside. She was a realtor who remembered her clients' kids' names years after closing. She went to church. She'd remarried, blended a family, and taken in her granddaughter when her daughter couldn't provide stability. By all accounts, Ada was the fixer, the anchor, the woman who held everything together.
When was the last time you ever did so childish stuff with your grandbaby? And me, it's almost every day. I'm in a hotel. I'm teaching her the great thing about
Her daughter Riley was 22 and living in Cincinnati. Beautiful, troubled, and caught in what seemed like an endless loop of starting over. Riley had a 3-year-old daughter named Price, and while Ada had legal custody, she wasn't cruel about it. Family members said Ada was flexible, welcoming, even hopeful that Riley would eventually get back on her feet. So here's the million-dollar question. If Ada was so accommodating, if she allowed Riley to see Price whenever she wanted, why did Riley drive 4 hours from Ohio with a gun in her purse? That's the angle nobody's talking about. Everyone's focusing on the custody dispute, but custody disputes happen every single day in this country. Mothers lose custody and fight to get their kids back through lawyers, through courts, through family therapy. They don't usually show up at midnight and execute their own mothers in cold blood. So, what pushed this beyond the breaking point? What was the real trigger that nobody's examining? Let me take you back a few months. Riley's life was falling apart publicly, and I mean that literally. Her relationship with her daughter's father, Darnell Adams, was a train wreck playing out on Facebook for everyone to see. They weren't just arguing, they were posting accusations of abuse, cheating, assault. The kind of posts where you can feel the desperation bleeding through the screen. In late July, Riley wrote something that should have raised every red flag imaginable. She accused Darnell of physical violence, said she'd witnessed him in disturbing situations involving minors, and then she turned the knife on her own mother. She wrote that Ada had the chance to do right by her, that when she reported being sexually assaulted, nobody took her to the hospital. Nobody protected her. The post ended with a chilling line. "I've protected people who wouldn't even flinch if it was me bleeding." That stops here. Think about that for a second. She's not just angry at the father of her child. She's furious at her mother. She feels abandoned by the one person who's actually raising her daughter while she spirals. And she's putting it all out there for strangers to validate. Here's what's interesting. When someone's mental health is deteriorating, social media becomes both their therapy and their courtroom. Riley wasn't just venting. She was building a case in her own mind. Every post, every accusation, every person who didn't respond the way she wanted was another piece of evidence that the world was against her, including her mother. In August, Riley took Price and Ada's car and drove to Ohio without permission. Ada was terrified, not because her car was gone, but because she knew her daughter's state of mind was fragile. When Riley came back, she had Price but not the family dog. Never explained what happened to it. That's when Ada started limiting visits, not out of meanness, but out of fear. And to Riley, that felt like the ultimate betrayal. Fast forward to October 5th. Riley buys a Chrysler 300 from a private seller that same day. That's not a coincidence. She's planning something, and she needs a vehicle that can't be immediately traced to her. She drives from Cincinnati to Southfield, arriving just before midnight. Surveillance cameras catch her pulling into the driveway. She walks into the house. 3 minutes later, she's running back out. Ada's 77-year-old mother-in-law heard 3, maybe 4 gunshots. She was too shaken to call 911, so she called her son instead. He called the police. When officers arrived, they found Ada on the floor with gunshot wounds to her chest, back, and a graze to her head. Price was upstairs, crying for her grandmother. And Riley? She left her purse behind in her rush to escape. Inside that purse was her ID, receipts, everything investigators needed to identify her. Now here's where this gets really dark. Riley didn't panic and disappear. She drove to Ohio, spent 2 hours near Toledo, then drove back to Detroit. Police believe she tossed the gun somewhere along that route. When they arrested her the next day at a CVS parking lot, body cam footage shows her eerily calm. An officer asks her name, and she responds with one word: God. Police Chief Elvin Barron said something in the press conference that stuck with me. He said, "She's very conscious of calling herself God because when individuals make that declaration, they're letting us know that they decide who lives and who dies." The second investigators tried to interview her. She asked for a lawyer. She knew exactly what she was doing. So here's what haunts me about this case, and it's the angle I haven't heard anyone else discuss. Riley didn't snap. This wasn't a moment of rage where she lost control and something terrible happened. She bought a car that day. She concealed a gun in her purse. She drove 4 hours. She walked into that house knowing her 3-year-old daughter was sleeping upstairs, knowing Ada's elderly mother-in-law was home, and she pulled that trigger anyway. But here's the contradiction that nobody's reconciling. Just months earlier, Riley and Ada sat side by side at Price's ballet recital, smiling, watching that little girl twirl in her pink tutu. There were no custody forms that night, no arguments, just 2 mothers watching one little girl dance. What happened between that moment and October 5th? I think the answer is buried in Riley's mental health history. Ada had tried to get her daughter help. After the August incident, Ada didn't press charges. She petitioned to have Riley hospitalized instead. Riley was taken to Common Ground for evaluation. But whatever happened there, it wasn't enough. And that's the tragedy within the tragedy. Ada saw her daughter drowning and threw her a lifeline. Riley saw it as another way her mother was controlling her. Riley Donaldson is facing first-degree premeditated murder charges. If convicted, she'll spend the rest of her life in prison. Price is now living with her grandfather, having lost both her mother and grandmother in one devastating night. And Ada Mae Simmons-Jones, the woman who built homes for others, couldn't protect her own from collapsing. But here's what I want you to think about. Could this have been prevented? Was there a moment where intervention could have changed the outcome? Or was this train already off the tracks? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and I want to hear what you think. If this story affected you, hit that like button and subscribe to True Crime Unraveled for daily deep dives into cases that deserve a closer look. On Facebook and TikTok, find us at True Crime Unraveled TV. We're covering stories from angles other channels won't touch, and your support helps us keep going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey, just watch that back for you. You want to just make her get out? Yeah. Yeah. Open. Hands up. Hands up. I can't see it.
I got him. Hands up, hands up, hands, 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 hands. It's all right. Hands high, high. Step here, face away from her, face away.
Get on the ground.
All
the way down. All the way down. On the ground.
Watch that right.
There might be someone in the back seat. I can't tell. Man, was there anybody else in the back seat?
All right, we'll move it up. Good. You guys ready?
Thanks, you gotta come.
Get
on your stomach. Get on your stomach. Stomach. Arms out. Arms out. Arms out. Give us just 1 minute.
No, I don't.
I got you.
I stole yours.
I got another pair. That's his quick. Got it. All right, that's too quick.
Did he call what it was?
Yeah.
You're confident on that card? You want to hit the trunk? If you can get out, you can. Watch cross.
You got more in custody. What's your name? What's your name? Riley Donaldson. I always say thank you to the media for being here, and also thank you for your patience. I know after this incident occurred, the media was calling, members of the community was calling, because anytime there's a homicide, it does generate a lot of concern in our neighborhood. I did have an opportunity to speak to the husband of the deceased. I spoke to him yesterday. I didn't want to have a press conference and not have had conversation with him to advising him on the nature of the investigation and the press conference. Certainly want to send our condolences to the family. In fact, we do have friends and family who've joined us here in the audience today to hear the sequence of events and our investigation. I want to remind everybody that this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. In fact, the Southfield Police Department recently completed a Domestic Violence Awareness Walk. I also spoke at the West Bloomfield Henry Ford Silent Witness ceremony that they partner with Haven every year. And one thing that stands out about this month, oftentimes we spend a lot of time when we have discussions about domestic violence centering on intimate partner violence. But another aspect of domestic violence that we're going to have to pay more attention to is family violence. We've seen son kill father. We've seen brother kill sister. And in this case, unfortunately, daughter kills the mother. So family violence is worthy of those conversations and resources as well. So this incident began on Sunday, October 5th at approximately 11:40 p.m. Southfield police officers were dispatched to the 18,000 block of Bainbridge Drive on report of a shooting that just occurred. Southfield police and fire arrived on scene and immediately began life-saving measures on an unresponsive female. Despite those efforts by first responders, the victim was pronounced deceased at the scene. While rendering first aid, first responders observed several spent casings and observed the victim with a gunshot wound to the chest, back, and a graze wound to her head. The victim was identified as 45-year-old Southfield resident Mae Simmons-Jones. Southfield officers determined that the 77-year-old female and a 3-year-old child were present in the home at the time the shooting occurred. However, both were unharmed. The 77-year-old female is a resident of the home, and she's the victim's mother-in-law, who does have some physical health challenges. She heard approximately 3 to 4 gunshots and then heard someone run outside the front door.
Our officers responded to the scene and began collecting evidence, surveillance video, and our detectives really worked tirelessly on this case. Southfield officers and detectives searched the home, canvassed the area for surveillance videos, and utilized advanced technology to determine the sequence of events. Neighborhood surveillance video captured a dark-colored Chrysler 300 drive down Bainbridge and pull into the driveway of where the shooting occurred. The suspect, later identified as Riley Donaldson, exits the driver's side of the vehicle and approaches the front door of the residence. Minutes later, Donaldson is seen exiting the residence, enter the front driver's seat of the Chrysler 300, and quickly speed away from the crime scene. And you're going to see that later on when I show that video. However, in a hurry to flee from the scene, our suspect left her purse behind, which contained identifying items. Our suspect, and I'm going to remind you, the daughter of our victim, is a resident of Cincinnati, Ohio, and does not reside at that home. We believe that the gun was concealed inside of that purse as she entered that home. The investigation also revealed through phone records that our suspect was at the home during the time of the shooting. And that's why I mentioned the importance of using technology in these investigations. Our investigation also determined that Donaldson purchased a 2017 Chrysler 300 from a private seller on October 5th of this year. And I bring that up because when you look at the video is grainy, but you can still see the silhouette of the Chrysler 300 if you know your vehicles. Our detectives continued using technology to strengthen our case, and immediately following the shooting, she fled to Ohio, just outside of Toledo, in the area of Lake Township and Pittsburgh Township, where she remained in that area for approximately 2 hours and then drove to the city of Detroit. And I'm going to pause here. So I'm going to tell you, this investigation revealed that this homicide, this murder, was premeditated. And immediately following the shooting, as I stated in my remarks, she fled to Ohio. And we did contact both those cities' police departments because she was there for about 2 hours. We believe that somewhere between the time of the shooting and in her path towards Ohio, we believe she may have discarded that weapon. So we did ask those agencies to search the general area. However, they were not able to locate the gun. On Monday, October 6th, at approximately 1:30 p.m., Southfield detectives and detectives from the Oakland County Auto Theft Task Force and our Southfield Tactical Crime Suppression Unit located the black Chrysler 300 occupied by our suspect in the area of Finkel and St. Mary's in the city of Detroit. Detectives set up surveillance and followed the vehicle to a CVS at the 7 Mile location in the area of Greenfield in the city of Detroit. The Chrysler 300 was backed into a parking spot in front of the store, and 3 males were also in the car with Donaldson. The investigation revealed that these 3 men did not have anything to do with the homicide. Detectives observed our suspect Donaldson as a front seat passenger in the front seat of the Chrysler 300. Responding officers initiated a traffic stop of the vehicle, and Donaldson was taken into custody without incident. And I will show that video here momentarily. I also want to put some context to this because oftentimes when you hear the homicide, particularly you talk about a daughter killing her mother, there must have been some type of conflict. So what we determined is that on Friday, August 22nd of this year, right around 4:30 p.m., Southfield officers were dispatched to the same home on a report of a missing child. The reporting party was our deceased, Miss Mae Simmons-Jones, where she contacted Southfield Dispatch and stated that her daughter, our suspect, Riley Donaldson, had taken her granddaughter, whom Mrs. Simmons-Jones has legal guardianship over the 3-year-old child. And yes, that's the child that was at the home at the time of the shooting. She further advised dispatch that our suspect suffered from mental illness and that she stole her vehicle and took the 3-year-old child and the family dog. The victim's vehicle, which was a Kia Sedona, that was taken by a suspect, was recovered by the Swanson Police Department in Toledo, Ohio, along with a 3-year-old child who was unharmed. However, the dog was never recovered. On Wednesday, August 27th of the same year, the victim, Miss Jones, she did not wish to pursue criminal charges for the theft of the vehicle or for the taking of the grandchild. And probably because, as you know, we love our children and didn't necessarily want to prosecute her daughter. However, Miss Jones did petition for her daughter to be hospitalized, and Southfield police officers did take her into custody and then transfer her to Common Ground for a mental health evaluation. When you look at the criminal history of our suspect, she does not have a criminal history, but with our evidence and our investigation, the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office did authorize charges for Riley Donaldson. Again, she's 22 years old. She's a resident of Cincinnati, Ohio, and count 1, homicide, murder, first degree, premeditated. Count 2, weapons, felony firearm. She was given no bond, and her next court date is scheduled for October 27th of this year at 9:45 a.m. Before Judge Johnson. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time, talking about the fact that, again, this was premeditated. The prosecutor's office agreed, issued those charges, and I know your next question will surround me regarding mental health and how do you hold individuals accountable. So in my 28 years of policing, I've seen severe mental illness where that person doesn't understand what they're doing. What I'll tell you, this isn't it. And when you look at our contacts with our suspect, and you'll see it in the video, when she's arrested, she refers to herself, when the officers asked her name, refers to herself as God. Also, when our detectives brought her to the station and began to interview or attempt to interview her, she immediately asked for a lawyer. So she's very conscious of the legal system. She's very conscious of calling herself God, because you all know when individuals do that declaration, they're letting us know that they decide who lives and who dies. And so, again, we're not going to allow anyone to use mental health as escape. There's a process for that where a judge will decide whether a person is deemed fit to stand trial for mental illness through a process. But again, our evidence with the way the shooting took place at 11:40 at night, the way you're going to see this vehicle hurry up and escape the crime scene, the fleeing to Ohio to remove yourself from the state of Michigan, particularly Southfield, Michigan, in a close proximity of the time of the shooting, so that you could say that you were in Ohio, not knowing that technology is going to place you at the home at the time of the shooting, not knowing that technology is going to allow us as a police department to track your movements from the crime scene all the way to Ohio. And so with that being said, I'm going to dim these lights and we're going to show the moment in which the Chrysler 300 arrived at the home to commit this heinous crime. Please lower the lights and play the video.
Is there audio associated with this video?
No audio. But it will be audio, I'm sorry, it will be audio for the arrest. I'm going to show the arrest as well, where you're going to hear her call herself God. And before you push play, look at the top. When the car pulls into the driveway, I want you to notice the floodlight comes on when she exits the house. The floodlight comes on when she leaves the house. And also the top of the car, you'll see our suspect, it's grainy, but you can see it's a female with a bonnet on. And it will be the same look as when we locked her up for her crimes. But play the video, please. And when this vehicle exits or flees, watch how the vehicle appears to drive into a ditch, quickly trying to escape. Again, that's someone who's conscious of what they're doing. Now, the next video we're going to show is Southfield police officers, Oakland County Auto Theft Task Force, and our detectives' arrest after the, again, surveillance operation took place.
You want to get out? Yeah. Hands up. Hands up.
Hands up, hands. It's all right. Hands high. Step here, face away.
On the ground. All the way down. On the ground.
Watch that right.
There might be someone in the backseat. I can't stop. There's right off my backseat. All right, hold it up. That's right.
Stomach, arms out. Just 1 minute.
I got this. I stole yours. Yeah, look there. That's good.
Stop down that car. You can get out. You can.
And the next would be a still of the vehicle, again, that Chrysler 300, just for your information purposes. All right, this time we can turn the lights back on, and then the media refocus. Take it down. All right, at this point, I'm going to open up the floor for questions from our reporters in the room.
You had mentioned the police call previously to the residents, the mother not wanting to press charges. Can you elaborate on the fact, was she allegedly angry over the mother trying to regain custody, or if you believe that is specifically what motivated this days later even?
Yeah, so I believe that that's a contributing factor to the conflict between mother and daughter, was the custodial rights of the child. What I'm told by family is that the mother was very accommodating to the suspect, allowing her to see the child pretty much whenever she wanted to see the child. But again, through conflicts between mother-daughter relationship, probably upset that her mother has legal custody, it probably brewed other conflicts and arguments that may have led up to the homicide. We never will really know the full extent of why someone would choose to kill their mother, but we do believe that it does center around the possibility of the custodial arrangements with the 3-year-old child.
And the attack took place late at night, based on the video and the timing. So was mom in bed, or can you do any description of the crime scene? Did she walk in and not know this was coming, or if you were able to elaborate?
Yeah, it does appear that our victim was taken by surprise, did not necessarily know it was coming. I think based on the evidence in the crime scene, she knew that the suspect, her daughter, was in the room, and then obviously looking at the time frame that she was in the house, which was not that long, just several minutes. I believe she committed this act very quickly and then fled.
So I'm sorry to clarify, from when she pulled up via video to when she left was how long?
Just under 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the media? Well, again, thank you all for being here. Again, condolences to the family. I do, again, want to appreciate the family and friends who did join us in the room. And again, to the Southfield detectives who worked this case. This could have very well been a whodunit situation. So I'm going to give the Southfield detectives, particularly our lead detective, credit on this case. It's important that the families have closure, families have an understanding of what took place. And I know it's difficult for the family because in essence they lose two people, one to the criminal justice system and another to death. But the work, the passion that our agency displayed in using, I keep saying it, using technology to uncover the truth. Because again, this was planned, premeditated murder, and I'm going to thank our detectives for their tireless work on bringing closure to the family in our community. Thank you.
So who has custody of the child now?
So the child has been turned over to the grandfather. Yes.
Do you have spelling of the victim's name, probably?
Yes. And I'll give it to you offline.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, so those who want the name ADA, and then middle name MAE, and then last name Simmons, common spelling, -Jones.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You said she's 40.
She's 45. Let me double check that, but see, she's 45.
45.
Yeah, 45. Yes, ma'am. What do you want to do? It's not kind of like that.